Okay, let's move on to PLANTPlan, which is a brand new tool for Plant25, an exciting new development and something I'm very proud of and looking forward to you to be able to use. If we click on PLANTPlan, that's going to open up a brand new dialog. Bear in mind the first time you do this, it may take a little time for it to populate all of the plants, but once it's done it the first time, the next time you log in, it will be fairly instantaneous. So don't worry if your computer does give you the spinning wheel for a short time. The first time you do it, it's absolutely normal. So the PLANTPlan interface is split up into three sections. On the left hand side you have a filter system, which we'll come back to in a second. In the middle you have your entire plant list, and you can see how many plants you have in total. So at the moment I've got 2,304. Right hand side you have what is currently an empty mood board. So PLANTPlan is used right at the beginning process of creating your planting plans, when you're going to sit down and work out, right, what plants am I going to use? What plants will be good in the site for the site that I have? What are the conditions? What plants will grow well? And you're going to be able to create, first of all, a palette of plants that you can actually use for your scheme, for your actual placing of plants, but also an attractive mood board and a seasonality chart, which you can then either use for yourself or you can then pass it over to your client as well. So all that information is done inside of this tool, and it's a very quick tool for you to use, which should make your lives an awful lot easier when you're sitting down and planning what your plants are going to be. So very simply, all you do, and I'm just going to use random plants here, there's no thought gotten into this whatsoever, so please don't judge my planting planning. You find a plant that you like and you click it, and then we're going to add that plant to our mood board on the right hand side. So we'll go down a bit further, we'll end up with lots and lots of vases. So you see the first few plants I've got photographs for. Some of the others I haven't. I'm just going to find agapanthus, because I've definitely got down as far as that. There we go, so we'll put some agapanthus in. There we go. A bit further down the list. So these are completely random plants. And you can add them to your mood board. So say some have images, some don't. Ideally, obviously, you'd want them all to have images. If they don't have an image though, you'll get the standard symbol, which will just show you what category the plant is when you create your mood board, which you'll see shortly. Once you've got your initial collection of plants, we can go to seasonality. Now the seasonality section is going to tell you what's going on in your plan throughout the year. So left hand side you have the list of plants that you have chosen added to your mood board, and then you have a chart which gives you the months of the year and then cells that are color coded to what's going on. So if the plant is in flower, you will see a color relating to the color of the flower, which you can apply in the plant record. If you see a solid green box, that means the plant is evergreen. If you see a black box, it means that it's deciduous, and if you see a black and green striped box, that's telling you that it's semi-evergreen. The colour of the cell dictates whatever the colour, or tells you whatever colour of the flowering that the plant actually is. And you'll also notice that for some of these plants there are little dotted months. If I hover over that plant, it will tell you that there is some additional interest, so mainly autumn and winter interest here. And if you hover over it, it tells you what that is. So at the moment you'll see for this Acer, it's got autumn foliage, and it's looking good in that respect in October and November. Now towards the bottom you will see that we have a couple of different pieces of information. First of all, it will tell you if there are any flowering gaps at some point in your plan. So at the moment, November and December, when we generally wouldn't be surprised to see there's flowering gaps, it tells you there's a gap there. It also tells you where there is minimum interest. So minimal interest means that there are 3 or less things going on in your scheme during that particular month. So again, January and February, you probably expect there wouldn't be too much going on, but you've also got March and April where there's not much, and you would expect there to be something. So if we look at March, for example, the only bit of flowering that's going on is with the acacia at the top, and similarly in April you just got the ajuga flowering. So that tells us, right, hang on a second, we want to find something that's going to look good in the garden or in this particular scheme that works and is doing its job in March and April. So that way you can come over to the left hand side, and let's say we're going to look for some bulbs that are flowering in March, and you can choose anything you like. Obviously the more filters you apply, the less options you're going to have depending on what's in your scheme, but you can say, right, well, I want to see anything that's kind of any of the purple shades, and that will bring them through. And then all you do, again, we're just doing random plants here, click a button, it's going to give you those plants into your model, and you'll see by adding those 3 now, minimal interest has now gone back to January and February, because we've got some plants that are doing something of interest within the 2 months that we've added. So you can go through your year and very quickly see what's going on, what's not going on, and then make changes as and when required. Now, palettes, if I come up to the top right here and first of all click on Use Plants, it will confirm that 23 plants have been sent to the main dialog. So if I just close this for now, come back to the main dialog, go back to the filter box, you'll see we now have a palette which is full of 23 plants. And if I click that, it will just show me those 23 plants that I have just randomly selected to go into my scheme. If I go back to PLANTPlan and then go to Save Palette, you can create palettes of plants for whatever you want. So you might want to create palettes for clients, particular clients that you can come back to and use, or you might want to say, right, well, I want to look at my plants in my library that are good for shady areas. So I'm going to find all my shady plants, put them into a palette, and save that as a shady garden, or a prairie planting, or cottage garden, or whatever it is that you want to save. So we'll just call this example palette for now, and then click on OK. Now if I go to palettes up here, it will show you all of those palettes that you've saved. So at the moment we've just got the example that I've just saved, but as I say, you can have as many as you like and it'll be listed here, and all you would do is click on load and it will bring those plants into your mood board, which you can then play around with and pick and choose the ones that you actually want to use. You can obviously rename the palette there if you want to, and you can delete it if you want to going forward. If I close PLANTPlan again and go back to the filter, you'll see that now we have saved palettes. There's your example palette with the same 23 plants in it that we've just saved. So you can have as many of those as you like, and it should make life an awful lot easier for you if you're faced with situations where you need particular plants and you know they grow well because you've used them before, and that should definitely help. If you go back into PLANTPlan, once you've completed your mood board, you can then come up to the export button at the top. That's going to display this dialog for you, and you can now create a PDF mood board to hand to your clients or use for yourself or whatever it is that you want to use it for. So let's just call it something boring. So example mood board, and then you can choose what to include. So you're generally going to want to include the images, so the plant tiles. You can include the seasonality chart as well, and if you want to include your details as well and your branding, tick designer profile. Click generate PDF. It will call the PDF whatever it is that you've just specified. Click on save, just going to overwrite an earlier version, and it will open up your default PDF viewer on your system, and you will get this result. So I'll go back up to the top. So you can see you have your cover page with your logo, which is taken from the profile section that I showed you earlier, title of the report, your contact details, who's created the report and the date, and then the mood board, I should say, not report. The mood board gives you then all of the images of your plants. If there aren't any images, then it will give you the standard category symbol, tells you when they're in flowering. Towards the bottom, you'll see the seasonality chart. Now, the only difference between this and what you've seen on the screen is that rather than have the dots, it gives you a code. So you can see we've got B, AS, I think the others are all AS there, AF, and at the bottom it will tell you what they all mean. So autumn foliage, berries, winter structure, vibrant stems, and attractive seed heads. Obviously, this mood board just covers one piece of paper, so there's not much going on page 2, but the more you add, the more details will appear there. So that can then be saved as a PDF, emailed to whoever. You can print it off. If by default it's A4, but if you have an A3 printer and you want to make it larger, you just use the scaling option on your printer and you'll still get a good result of your mood board.